Imagine walking into a dark Italian restaurant. The room is quiet, too quiet. At the back, a man sits alone. Expensive suit, gold watch, two men standing behind him. Nobody asks who he is, they already know. Because in the Mafia, power isn't always about what you say. Sometimes, it's about how quickly everyone stops talking when you enter the room. But here's the strange part. The man at the top isn't the only person with power. Below him is an entire ladder. Soldiers, enforcers, capos, advisors, underbosses, and at the very bottom, men trying desperately to prove they belong. Every level comes with more money, more respect, more influence, and more danger. Because the higher you climb, the more people want your position, and the more people want you dead. So what is it actually like to live as every rank in the Mafia? Let's start at the bottom. The outsider. You aren't officially Mafia yet. You're an outsider. Maybe you grew up around the neighborhood. Maybe your family knows people inside the organization. Maybe you've spent years doing favors for connected men. But there's a problem. You don't have a button, you don't have a title, and most importantly, you don't have protection. You're useful, but you're replaceable. Your job is simple: run errands, deliver messages, watch a location, drive someone somewhere, make introductions, and sometimes stand outside a door and wait. You might spend months doing things that seem insignificant, but everyone is watching. Are you loyal? Can you keep your mouth shut? Do you panic under pressure? Do you talk too much? Because the Mafia isn't just testing what you can do, it's testing whether you're someone they can trust, and that's the first lesson. In this world, being useful gets you noticed. Being trusted gets you promoted. But being reckless, that can get you buried, and eventually, if you survive long enough, someone may finally tell you, you're ready. That's when everything changes. The associate. Now you're an associate. You're inside the circle, but you're still not family. And that distinction matters. You might work alongside made men. You might make money with them. You might even be given serious responsibilities, but there's always a line. You're standing on one side, they're standing on the other. Associates could be involved in legitimate-looking businesses, gambling operations, loan sharking, fraud, smuggling, or other criminal enterprises. The important thing isn't the specific job, it's the relationship. You are proving your value every day, and now you start seeing the money. Nice restaurants, better clothes, better cars. People suddenly treat you differently. But the lifestyle comes with a hidden price. You can never fully relax. A normal businessman might worry about losing a deal. You might worry about whether the person sitting across the table is recording the conversation. You learn to watch entrances. You learn who is talking. You learn who suddenly stopped answering their phone. And you discover something terrifying. The closer you get to the organization, the harder it becomes to leave. But if you prove yourself, you may receive the invitation every associate dreams about: the ceremony, the oath, the moment you officially become a made man. The soldier. Now you're officially inside. You're a soldier, a made man. For the first time, you're not simply working for the Mafia, you are part of it. And that changes everything. Your status rises. Your connections grow. You have access to people you couldn't even approach before. But there's another side. Your freedom shrinks. Because now your actions don't only affect you, they affect the entire organization. A soldier might collect debts, protect operations, manage criminal enterprises, resolve disputes, or carry out orders from higher-ranking members. But here's the uncomfortable reality. The glamorous image disappears quickly. Being a soldier doesn't mean you're sitting in a mansion counting money. A lot of the time, you're waiting for instructions, waiting for someone to pay, waiting for a meeting, waiting to see whether a situation becomes a problem, and always wondering, who is watching you? The police, rival criminals, informants, even people inside your own organization, because loyalty is valuable. But suspicion is everywhere. And if you're unlucky, you discover another truth. A soldier can be powerful. Without being important, you're still taking orders, and someone above you is getting richer because you're doing the dangerous work. That someone is usually a capo regime. The capo, this is where things get interesting, because you're no longer just following orders. Now, you have people following yours. You're a capo, short for capo regime. Think of a capo as a manager inside the criminal organization. Under you are soldiers and associates. Above you is the leadership, and suddenly, your entire world changes. You don't personally handle every problem anymore. You delegate, you collect, you manage, you negotiate. Your crew generates money, and you send a portion upward. In return, you receive influence, respect, and access. But there's a catch. You are now responsible for your crew. If one of your soldiers makes a mistake, your boss might blame you. If money disappears, you're expected to explain it. If someone betrays the organization, you may be questioned about why you didn't see it coming. Your success is measured by one thing: results. A good capo makes money, keeps his crew under control, maintains relationships, and avoids unnecessary attention. Because the worst thing a capo can do is create a problem that reaches the boss's desk, and that leads to the next level. The person whose entire job is keeping the boss informed. The consigliere. The consigliere is different. He isn't necessarily the strongest man in the room. He isn't necessarily the richest, and he doesn't need to command the biggest crew. His weapon is something else: information, judgment, experience. The consigliere is essentially the boss's trusted advisor. Imagine the boss sitting behind a desk. Several captains are arguing. One wants retaliation. Another wants negotiation. Someone else wants more money. Everyone has an opinion. But then, the room goes silent. The boss turns toward one person, the consigliere. What do you think? And that's when years of experience matter. The consigliere isn't supposed to simply tell the boss what he wants to hear. He's supposed to tell him what he needs to hear. That makes the position incredibly powerful because sometimes the smartest person in a criminal organization isn't the person giving orders. It's the person whispering into the ear of the person who does. But even the consigliere has limits. He doesn't control everything. He advises. The final decision belongs to someone else. And standing just above him is a man who does have enormous control. The underboss. The underboss. Now you're getting close to the top. Very close. The underboss is essentially the second in command. If the boss is the face of the organization, the underboss helps make the machine function. He's dealing with captains, settling internal disputes, managing operations, monitoring money, and keeping the organization moving. Think of it like this. The boss looks at the entire chessboard. The underboss moves the pieces. But this position comes with a unique danger. Everyone knows you're powerful, and everyone knows you're close to the throne. That means some people respect you, others fear you, and a few may secretly want your position. Imagine sitting at a restaurant. You notice someone staring. You look again. They look away. Is it nothing? Maybe. Or maybe they're calculating, because when you're this high in the hierarchy, paranoia becomes part of your daily life. You don't just wonder who your enemies are. You wonder who your friends are. And if something happens to the boss, guess who suddenly becomes one of the most important people in the organization? You. But there's still one position above you. The position everyone knows. The name everyone fears? The boss. The boss. The boss sits at the top, the final authority, the man everyone reports to. At least, that's how it looks from the outside. Because being the boss isn't simply about having power, it's about carrying responsibility for everything underneath you. Imagine hundreds of people connected through a massive web. Soldiers, associates, capos, business owners, contacts, lawyers, advisors. The boss sits in the center. Every decision eventually moves toward him. Money flows upward. Information flows upward. Problems flow upward. And that's the curse. The boss may have the biggest house, the most expensive suit, the most powerful connections, but he also has the most enemies. A soldier might disappear for a few days. A capo might change his routine. But the boss? Everyone knows where the boss stands. And everyone knows that taking him down could change the entire organization. So the boss becomes increasingly isolated. Meetings become private. Travel becomes complicated. Trust becomes rare. Even eating dinner with someone can feel like a calculation. Because the higher you climb, the fewer people you can truly trust. And then there's another problem. The boss eventually gets old. Maybe he's arrested. Maybe he's killed. Maybe he loses control. And when that happens, someone has to replace him. Which brings us to the final level. The man waiting in the shadows.
The acting boss/successor. This is the most dangerous position of all, because you're close enough to power to taste it, but not close enough to control it. An acting boss may run the organization while the official boss is imprisoned, hiding, ill, or otherwise unable to lead. And a potential successor, he's watching everything, learning everything, waiting. This is where ambition becomes dangerous, because now you're not asking, how do I make money? You're asking, how do I control the organization? And suddenly, every relationship matters. Every alliance matters. Every mistake matters. A future boss needs people who believe in him, but he also needs to avoid looking too ambitious, because if everyone realizes you're reaching for the throne may become the reason you disappear. And this is where the mafia hierarchy becomes almost tragic. At the bottom, you dream about becoming powerful. At the top, you dream about staying alive. The associate wants respect. The soldier wants promotion. The capo wants influence. The underboss wants control. And the boss? The boss wants to know who is coming for him. The fall. But there's one final rank nobody talks about. The fallen man. Because mafia hierarchies don't always end with retirement. Sometimes they end with prison, betrayal, death, or disappearance. One day you're sitting at the top. The next, your organization has moved on without you. And that's the terrifying thing about this world. Power feels permanent until it isn't. The man you trusted for 20 years could become a witness. The soldier you promoted could become an enemy. The ally who shook your hand yesterday could be negotiating against you tomorrow. Every promotion brings more money, but it also brings more exposure, more enemies, more responsibility, more paranoia, until eventually there's nowhere higher to climb and nowhere left to hide. The price of the pyramid. So what is it really like to be every rank in the mafia? At the bottom, you're trying to prove yourself. As an associate, you're trying to get inside. As a soldier, you're trying to survive. As a capo, you're trying to control your crew. As a consigliere, you're trying to influence decisions. As an underboss, you're trying to hold the organization together. And as the boss, you're trying to stay on top. But here's the irony. Every step upward looks like freedom, more money, more respect, more power, until you realize every step upward also builds another cage. At the bottom, someone else tells you what to do. At the top, everyone expects you to know what to do. At the bottom, you fear your boss. At the top, you fear everyone. And eventually, you understand the real currency of the mafia isn't money, it's trust. Because money can be replaced, power can be taken, positions can change. But once trust disappears, the entire organization becomes a ticking clock. And somewhere, in a quiet restaurant, a man in an expensive suit sits alone. His phone is on the table. Two men stand behind him. Nobody speaks. because everyone knows who he is. The boss, the man at the top, the man who seemingly has everything. But somewhere in the back of his mind, there's one question he can never escape. Not, how much power do I have? But, who wants me dead? And that's what it really means to climb the mafia hierarchy. The higher you rise, the darker the view becomes.